Clashes have erupted in Ethiopia's Afar region. Reports coming out from there suggesting a number of civilians were killed in Tuesday's clashes. It's reported that heavy weapons are being used by the Tigray People's Liberation Front. The fighting broke out last year in November. Well, for more on the latest, William Davison from the International Crisis Group joining us now. William, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time here on the Midday View on eNCA. This fresh fighting, why are we seeing this fresh fighting? I mean, just a few months ago, we saw elections in Ethiopia. There was a kind of a lull. From what you know, what has brought about this new fighting?
Well, first of all, those elections really had very little impact on the situation in Tigray and areas adjacent to Tigray. So that political disagreement and essentially the conflict has continued whilst the elections have taken place. We're really still in the same phase of fighting that has been ongoing since mid-July. In June, if you remember, the federal forces left Tigray after a sort of 10-month effort to control the region. Subsequent to that, for various reasons, the Tigray forces, which had recovered a lot this year, they went on the offensive into Amhara and Afar. They captured some territory, then they met quite stiff resistance. In August and September, we saw something of a lull, and now we are seeing a renewed attempt by the federal forces to push back the Tigray force into Tigray and ultimately to try and defeat them.
Yeah, just remind our viewers, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, what are they fighting for?
The main trigger last year for the war was an electoral constitutional dispute. The elections were delayed nationally by the federal government due to the pandemic. Tigray's government resisted that. They ran their own election, and this brought them into a constitutional dispute that led to the war. Prior to that, the TPLF Tigray's ruling party had refused to join Prime Minister Abiy's new National Prosperity Party, which replaced a ruling coalition that the TPLF used to be part of. So those are some of the sort of fundamental reasons. Ultimately, it's about autonomy, the balance of power between the central government and regional governments, and relates to Ethiopia's multinational federal structure.
Is the TPLF in control of much of that region of Ethiopia, or have they been effectively dislodged from some of the main towns and cities, like the capital, Mekelle?
No, the TPLF is very much in control of Mekelle. The major pieces of the developments this year were that whilst the federal government, in the form of an interim administration, was governing Tigray, that only occurred until late June. Then the sort of rebel forces, the Tigray resistance, put so much pressure on the federal military and administrators that they left Tigray. Since then, the TPLF has been back in the seat of the regional government in Mekelle and almost all of the rest of Tigray.
Yeah. So from the latest fresh fighting, I mean, there's claims and counterclaims. Who's making what progress? And very briefly, I mean, the Ethiopian armies saying it's on an offensive, but TPLF saying no, they are not being dislodged at all. What can you share with us, the latest from the ground?
Well, unfortunately, as you say, I think that claim and counterclaim situation is that's sort of where we're at the moment. This latest bout of fighting has really just got going. We know where it's centered in areas of northern Amhara, which the Tigray forces are occupying. It really is very hard to say at the moment what is actually sort of transpiring on the battlefield. All we could really be certain about, unfortunately, is that for now, rather than prioritizing a disastrous humanitarian situation through a ceasefire, looking towards political negotiations, which is what needs to happen for Ethiopia's overall stability. Unfortunately, it does look like for now we're locked into more fighting. And for now, that's primarily in northern Amhara region.
Yeah, there's a humanitarian crisis as well, as you say. Thank you very much for your time and some of the insights and what's been happening there in that part of Ethiopia. Now,